Okay, discussion over the beauty. In a summary, I'd say this whole book is really focusing on what the beauty myth actually is, and because men rule the society, they have a set of standards of how women should look or how they should act, and their perspective of beauty is almost too high for women to reach. Yet we still seem to go for it, and so we are all hypothetically chasing after something that's impossible. But in doing this, this lowers our self-esteem, realizing that we'll never reach the perfect beauty because beauty in itself is a myth. And Naomi Wolf has highlighted this and how corrupt the word beauty is. And so I have on page 12, she says, none of this is true. Beauty is a currency system like the gold standard. Like any economy, it is determined by politics, and in the modern age in the West, it is the best belief system that keeps male dominance intact. So the way she shows that male dominance, she puts into 5 subtopics. The first is work, how women's clothing is judged, how they don't get the same opportunities as men to have higher positions in the workforce and in the world. That's on page 38. Basically, she's just women are judged no matter what they look like. Here it says that red hair, say, or large breasts were the reasons given by her employer for sexual harassment. So anything she would wear, she would get judged by and be sexually harassed. She also talks about culture and how women are portrayed through magazines, movies, basically any type of advertisement, how we are percepted. And it's one of the shortest chapters, but the most interesting point in it is probably how women have turned women against ourselves. How women in the media make women look down on themselves. So, then she talks about religion. I'd say this is the most extreme. How women were made second, not as important as the men were. How women were a sin because we are always an evil lust for men. And I think the most extreme thing she says is comparing a day at the spa to the resurrection of Jesus. And also women tend to twist Jesus' words, which seems really unprofessional, but it's just the way women think. We hear something, then we think it's something completely different. So when we hear, "Watch ye therefore, for ye not know when the master of the house cometh at 7, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning," women can use that as always wear your makeup, even if you're not just walking the dog. You never know whom you might meet. So we twist Jesus' words. And I think an interesting question of that is, why do you think Naomi was so harsh about religion?
I personally think it's because she had a bad experience with it. I don't know anything about her, but that's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I think that the idea in the Bible that women are second is a good point, because some people think that men are the head of the household. I can see that, but I think personally I would want everything equal. I would want my partner to make a firm decision. I want us to come to this conclusion. But I think some of the points that we are seen as what men lust over is kind of valid, because if you look at what we're supposed to wear, even in school, if your skirt is shorter than mid-thigh, then you're the reason why people are distracted.
And then she goes on to talk about sex, and I think this is the most intimate one. I think it's the one that we can all agree with the most. And she looks at sex in a certain way as if women don't look the same as models or actresses, then we won't have the same sex experience. And more in our kind of younger child version, I guess, we won't be loved by men if we don't look like that. And the more dehumanizing section, because it does talk about rape culture. It brushes on it a little bit. Women are meant so men can do stuff to them, and naked women are okay, but no men, men aren't allowed to be naked. That's a no. And on page 39, she tells a story of how it was a court that was going on over a movie, and the movie had photos of naked women tied up, bruised, and bleeding, intended for sexual purposes, and they were not obscene since there were no erect penises. but a Canadian woman's film was banned for a 5-second shot of an erect penis being fitted with a condom. So that's just like unfair how sex is viewed in the world. And also how our world makes profit off of this. Like we make profit off of beautiful women having sex, like pornography. And then she goes on to talk about hunger and violence, and basically the gist of that is the feelings and thoughts that she has brought up in her book are actually played out in actual life. Physically, women hurt themselves, they don't eat, that's like the anorexias and the bulimics. Most are American women, she does say. And like younger girls feel so much pressure to be beautiful that they can't eat as much as men, like they have to have set restrictions on themselves to reach that beauty. So do y'all agree with her point on beauty?
Like in general.
In general, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we strive to attain this unachievable goal, and like you can see that through cosmetic surgery. The fact that nowadays some people like they plump their lips because they start to fill their lips, or get rhinoplasty or nose jobs, or even like liposuction. The fact that if you don't have this slim hourglass figure, then your body is like something meant for.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that the whole section on plastic surgery kind of touches on that too, because the fact that it's there and it's so easy to do doesn't really help the fact that women see, oh, I don't like this about myself. Then they're like, oh, that's okay, let me just go change it. Like they don't get any inner peace with the fact like they don't think that they're beautiful, so all they do is go change it to make sure that they look okay in the eyes of the men that are around them. So,
Yeah, and it'll never stop. You'll never be perfect enough, no matter how many procedures you get. You're always going to find something not perfect about you.
Like the way I see it is like there's this whole idea, and originally maybe she's right, maybe it was created by men. I personally agree with that we all started this, but now it's almost like women keep it going. You know, we look at each other, and I say, oh, and you say, oh, I want to look like that. So you go on a diet plan, you get plastic surgery, you do something, and you say it's to be more appealing to a partner or something like this, but really when it comes down to it, you were looking at another woman, and when you said, I like that quality. So you go and you try to change yourself into that, but you'll never be her, you'll never be anyone else. She will always be you, and there's no way to change that.
Right. So do y'all think the pressure that is put on us by the men, the women, or just ourselves?
I think it's a combination of both of them. I think there's certain aspects in which men play a really big role, but we also can do it to ourselves a lot.
I think the fact that men dominate society is really important, not like in a good way, but in the beauty myth, because I mean, if you look at like history and monuments, it's always of men, and we're always looking for role models. But I think female role models are more of like actors and actresses. Like we don't have as many female heroes, and men themselves who aren't educated, they think that women are only there for one purpose, you know, for like to bear children and to provide comfort.
I had a question. Would you consider this a feminist piece of writing? Because she, like in my opinion, she really does dog men quite a bit. Like, as you're reading this, you kind of get angry. Like, do men really think that way? Because obviously we're all women, so like we don't think the same way as that. But I would say that some of her assumptions are very extreme, and I would say a lot of boys I know do have respect. Maybe not as much as like God, obviously, but they have more respect than what's said in the book. Would y'all agree with that?
I agree, and I think something I don't agree with in the book is she will say kind of that all men do this. She never says certain men will, do this kind of thing. She's like, all men are like this, and it's just not true, and it makes people kind of look at the book, it's non-seriously, because she acts like all men act the same way, and all women act the same way, and I feel like she shouldn't do that. She should say, certain women do this and certain men do this, instead of saying that everybody does it. Because,
What you were saying? Sorry, I didn't mean
no, you're fine.
like not all of us are at risk for an eating disorder. Not all of us are. It's how you think and how you think of yourself, and part of it is, nature versus nurture, how you were raised, what you grew up with. And then it's the same way for guys. If they were raised to, not to sound totally basic, if they were raised to respect women, they're not gonna treat women like she talks about in the book.
Yeah.
She makes very general, radical
Yeah, that's
statements.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Very general, like
Yeah.
she generalizes men and women, and I don't.
I think the sad fact is that some men are raised in family that they tell them like, son, like when you grow up, it's gonna be all you. You're gonna find yourself a wife, but it's all you. Like she's not gonna do anything. Like you, it's all on you. Like it's your responsibility to raise your kids right. It's your responsibility to do everything. Like make the money, like provide them with the house. But honestly, like women they work. Like it's not as bad as it was because women are now getting jobs and they're now going higher. But women are still locked in like a system where they are looked at in like a male perceived version of beauty and importance, and it's sad, but I think it's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same.
Okay, I think mine is next, and one quote where I think she is evidence of her bias is it says, "To live in a culture in which women are routinely naked, where men are is to learn inequality in little ways all day long. So even if we agree that sexual imagery is in fact a language, it is clearly one that is already heavily edited to protect men's sexual and hence social confidence while undermining that of women." And I think it shows her bias because she states that we are faced with different standards and societal norms that there's still inequality. And I think that's valid because as a woman, she's going to experience that discrimination. And it also talks about the established social behaviors, the fact that men are aroused by women's bodies, but girls are more aroused by like their personality and their emotional side. And I think that social construct could only be changed if people were educated and all around advertising and that kind of stuff. It wasn't as focused on pleasing and more of like, I don't really think that needs to be cleaned up necessarily, but more equal and everyone does it. Like less naked women. Yeah, agreed. And then another quote where I found bias was when she said, "Aging in women is unbeautiful since women grow more powerful with time." And I think that bias could be from personal experience. Maybe she's older and she has felt less like attraction from men. But I think that the idea that men are fearful of other women because of their knowledge would be more of a subconscious thing. Like men aren't actually scared. Oh, she knows a lot, so I'm scared of her. But I do think that men's aversion towards older women could still be due in part to the women. But it's about the fact that younger women possess more beauty and are more flexible. I think they put up with like a 40-year-old isn't going to deal with 20-year-old males.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I think also she's kind of biased in the hunger section because she in the book said that she dealt with hunger as a kid, or like being anorexic or eating disorders. So that whole section, you had to keep that in mind as you were reading because some things she said were very powerful, very intense, eye-opening. It's a
Like, I remember when we were doing, like, this year, but when we were doing that sheet where you found the quotes in the book and you did that, the one where she said something about suicide. Do you remember that quote? I probably have it highlighted. It was really short, and it was yeah, let me find it. It's highlighted.
oh, how suicide is.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
What you're talking about.
Here, I just saw it. Maybe.
This one right here.
Yeah, the sons of privilege are the future. The future is committing suicide. That, to me, kind of like what you said, it sounded very personal, very powerful. So I wonder if she has struggled with suicidal thoughts and tendencies. We know she struggled with eating disorders, and those often lead to that. So she's very biased, but she's not unrightfully doing so.
Yeah.
She has her thoughts and she has her opinions, but most of her opinions in the book, she backs it up, with facts or something, with a statistic, and with her bias, she does have personal experience. So in that, like you were saying, maybe she is older and maybe she does experience this kind of stipulation from men that look at her and say, oh, she's older than me, she thinks differently, she won't put up with me, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we have about like 10 minutes, so I'm just gonna like record these and
Yeah.
it's already like a long discussion.
Okay. Who's
Yeah.
And throughout the novel, Wolf uses diction to emphasize certain words that she is using to influence how the woman is in today's society. Her diction contributes to the tone of the book because the words that she uses in certain quotes really kind of set the quote over the top, not over the top, but set it apart from being just like a passage, like a quote that you're going to highlight. And an example of that is on page 8, she says, but to pretend that since men have appearance standards, it means that genders are treated equally is to ignore the fact that in hiring and promotion, men's and women's appearances are judged differently, and that the beauty myth reaches far beyond dress code into different realms. In this passage, she used words like pretend and ignore because those are words that have a connotation of falsehood. Like pretending and ignoring is to set aside what is real and just kind of like put it aside and create a new like view on it.
Here, I'll go. Or actually, do you want to go?
Yeah, I can. Okay, so throughout the book, even though some of her points were very extreme, she always had a lot of evidence to back it up. That was something she was really good about. So I decided to do mine on that she made a claim that girls learn from a young age that they should not eat as much as men, and I agree with that. I felt at a young age I knew that men ate more than girls. And some of the evidence she has to back it up is she states that in Hellenistic Rome, Sarah B. Pomeroy reports that boys were rationed 16 measures of meal to 12 measures allotted to girls. And then she also says, in a sample of babies of both sexes, 99% of the boys were breastfed, but only 66% of the girls were, and they were given 50% less time. And then in Morocco, if women are guests, they will swear that they have eaten already or that they are not hungry. And then she states that small girls soon learn from these women that they should offer their share to visitors and refuse meat and deny hunger. And I think this is really good evidence to back up her point, especially because she uses statistics in two of them. And it's just, I agree with it. I feel like at a young age, I knew I wasn't supposed to eat as much as guys, and I just agree that this is good evidence, and it really does back up her point, because when I first read her claim that girls learn at a young age not to eat as much as guys, I was kind of skeptical about it, but now after reading like a few points, I understand where she's coming from, and it's solid evidence.
I agree. It's kind of conditioning. It's not so much of a lesson. It's more you see people doing it, so you do it.
Yeah, I mean they're learning from
Yeah.
older people. So yeah.
And then so for like connections to the real world, I kind of got a few. So for like work, dress code, we definitely see even at school, like dress code is definitely enforced more on girls than it is on boys. And that's just kind of the nature of it. Especially the slideshow that was going on. You saw way more girl examples than boy examples, just because that's how it is. And then like in culture, the advertisements and magazines are constantly talking about age reduction, weight loss, stuff like that. It kind of conditions you to constantly think, do I need to be losing weight? Do I need to worry about wrinkles or age lines or something? And then like sex culture, obviously the sexualization of women, we see it pretty much every day. I mean, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. We see it every day, but we're almost immune to it at this point because we see it all the time. In the hunger chapter, I picked up on the idea of dieting because almost all of us, I'm pretty sure we could all name someone who's on a radical diet right now to lose weight. When in reality, they work short term. They don't work for a very long time, and then you go back to where you were, and then you go on another radical diet, and then it's just one never-ending chain of it. So where did that come from? to say that it was the effective way to lose weight, when in reality, you have to eat healthy continuously, you have to work out continuously to actually lose weight. And then, like in the chapter on violence, I definitely picked up on how she talked about women's violence against themselves and plastic surgery, and more about the violence of their appearance. But she didn't really pick up on the violence, physical violence, like we were talking about earlier with rape culture and domestic violence. She didn't really pick up on those. She touched the surface, but I don't know, maybe she has another article or piece of work that she totally delves into that, or maybe she doesn't have any experience with it, which is good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want her to. But, so that was just interesting to me. Something that, especially physical violence and rape, not only is it important, it's very pressing for our generation, because we constantly hear about rapes on college campuses and stuff like that, and we're going to college in 2 years. So,
And maybe another bias, honestly, that she can relate more to or had experience, like feeling the need to get plastic surgery and stuff like that, more than feeling like violated by men, I guess.
Yeah.
And like when you hear stories about how little girls are sexually abused at a very young age, that really is like, it's how women, that girl doesn't even have a personality yet per se, and because she's a woman, she is raped, and that's really just it's her gender, that's her only characteristic. And I think that if she would have highlighted that more, it could have been more relatable, because that's, like you said, something like rape culture right now is something that our generation totally struggles with.
yeah.
I have a question for you. A lot of people think that like feminism is not needed, or that there's still inequality, there is equality. But I thought like reading the book it really evidence that feminism is needed, and not necessarily like the radical kind, but that women need to support other women. So like, is it needed?
Yeah, I mean, if we leave it all up to men, not that men are gonna mess it all up, but
It's just always
that's
gonna
only
benefit
half the
them.
population. You still have another half of perspectives and ideas that men may not be able to come up with. Like, men and women are wired differently.
Yeah.
And humankind are like we're very selfish.
Right.
So if we leave it up to the men to support women and fix the problems that are happening right now, they'll never get fixed, because it'll always be to the benefit of men instead of the benefit. Because real feminism is getting us all on an equal level, not getting women above men. And at this point, there are certain aspects where women just can't bypass men, because we're leaving it up to the men to decide.
Yeah.
So for women supporting each other, like y'all were saying, supporting each other and making decisions, and like you were saying, the perspective of a woman, that's totally different, and a man could never try that.
Right.
Yeah. And, okay. Well, I think that men, definitely more so than women, take advantage more. And if we stop like fighting for feminism, like for equality, yeah, it was, and there's like gradually going to begin to take advantage of us like more often. So I think it's definitely important that we keep.
I think what you said was important too, because I think most men are afraid of like feminists because they think we're trying to go on top. But really, all people that are trying to promote women's rights, all they want to do is make it known that women should be equal. Like there's no inferiority, or in no way, shape, or form should women be looked at as beneath men just because they are women. Like, and I just think men are scared because they're scared that they're going to lose their power. But in all honesty, they're not.
Yeah.
I think that was the main point of that Naomi was trying to make, is that we should be. Is that she was trying to make us equal. But I think if a man was reading her book, he would have gotten pretty ticked. Like,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's all men. It's all men do this, not some men, and some men are good. So I think that feminism really is important, but we could take it too far sometimes. And I think some, like an example of some times where you take it too far can be found in the book.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it still had a lot of good depth to it.
Men think that a lot of men think that feminism is a lot of hating on things that men have done, but the book talked about the fact that we and discussed how women look to other women, and it's kind of an issue in our own gender.
As we are about to conclude the course of series,
Okay.